Hey guys, welcome to Journey of Relaxation. Tonight we're stepping into a world so white and silent that it almost feels like time itself has taken a deep breath and paused. You're out there bundled up in layers surrounded by endless stretches of snow and ice, under a sky so clear you swear you can see the stars wink just for you. You trudge toward a low mound of snow blocks stacked in a perfect dome and igloo. But here's the kicker. This isn't just a snow house. It's an acoustic marvel designed to wrap you in absolute quiet, a silence so deep it almost hums. You probably won't survive this Arctic chill without it, but hey, you'll sure appreciate the peace. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, drop your location and local time in the comments. I'm curious if you're listening in a noisy city or somewhere equally quiet. Though nowhere quite like this, I bet. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself standing on the frozen tundra. The wind, a sharp whisper on your cheeks, and before you, the igloo beckons, an unassuming dome that's more fortress than house. Snow. As a building material. Sounds like a bad joke, right? But for the Inuit, snow is the perfect armor against the Arctic's brutal cold. It's light, abundant, and surprisingly a stellar insulator. The secret lies in its structure. Snow isn't just frozen water. It's a maze of tiny air pockets trapped between ice crystals, and these pockets trap heat and block the biting cold from sneaking inside. Imagine trying to build a shelter from something so fragile and cold that it melts if you breathe on it too hard, yet somehow you need it to keep you warm and oddly enough quiet. The Inuit figured out how to master this paradox thousands of years ago. Historians still argue whether igloos first came about purely for practical survival, or also as expressions of cultural identity. But what's undeniable is the brilliance of turning a landscape so harsh and noisy with the howl of the wind into a sanctuary of silence. This silence isn't just absence of sound. It's a crafted experience. When you crawl inside, the outside world's roar softens to a muted sigh, as if the snow walls absorb the wind's complaints and the crunch of your boots outside. The igloo's snug dome traps warmth from your breath and the flicker of a seal oil lamp, but more subtly it traps quiet. The snow blocks act like natural sound absorbers, muffling echoes and distant noises, creating a serene bubble. This wasn't accidental. It was intentional, an intimate dialogue between humans and nature. You might think silence is just about peace and rest, but for the Inuit it's also survival. Sound travels differently in the Arctic. The wind can carry noises far, making it harder to sleep or focus. The igloo's design dampens these noises, helping families conserve energy by resting well and staying mentally calm. The quiet also holds a spiritual weight. Inuit storytelling often revolves around moments of silence, pauses where respect for nature and ancestors is felt deeply. The igloo then becomes more than shelter. It's a sacred space where silence is as important as warmth. You lean against the icy wall, feeling the smooth snow blocks packed so tightly they almost seem solid stone. Each block was carefully cut from the surrounding snow using a curved knife, a craft passed down through generations. The snow's grain matters too coarse, and the blocks crumble, too dense, and they lose insulating power. This delicate balance is part science, part art, and part tribal wisdom. In the cold, stark Arctic, the igloo's silence feels like a shield against the chaos outside. So next time you're frustrated with the noise of daily life, remember that ancient builders made peace with snow, not just to survive, but to create a quiet that felt almost magical. You slip your hands around the curved walls, feeling the cool but dry surface of the igloo's dome, almost too perfect to be made of snow. Crafting this dome isn't just stacking blocks like oversized ice cubes, it's a precise art form, a geometry puzzle solved with bone stone and practiced hands. Each snow block is cut at a specific angle, almost trapezoidal, so when they lean into each other, they form an almost seamless, self-supporting arch. This dome isn't just pretty, it's an engineering marvel built to withstand harsh winds and heavy snowfall. The snow blocks themselves are shaped with remarkable precision. Imagine carving a puzzle piece from a block of snow too loose, and the whole thing collapses, too tight, and you can't slide the piece into place. The Inuit cut each block with curved knives called ulu, using their knowledge of snow density and grain to pick the perfect slab. Snow that's too powdery won't hold shape. too icy, and it won't insulate well. This fine balance is an ancient secret, handed down through families, a skill refined over generations. The dome's perfect curve also plays a silent but vital role in sound management. The rounded shape disperses sound waves instead of letting them bounce harshly off flat walls like in a typical room. This means no echoes that could turn a whisper into a shout. Historians still argue whether the dome shape was originally inspired by the need for stability or if acoustic comfort played a subtle role in its development. Either way, the igloo's curved geometry creates a cocoon of calm, a space where noises fade gently rather than crashing. This precision extends beyond just the blocks. The way they're stacked forms tight joints where snow crystals bond and refreeze, sealing the structure against drafts and sound leaks. Sometimes the builder even uses loose snow dust to fill tiny gaps, which then hardens into a natural mortar. The result, a nearly airtight shell that muffles the loud Arctic winds and keeps unwanted noises at bay. But shaping the perfect dome isn't just about the structure, it's about the timing and weather conditions too. Builders often wait for the right kind of snow, usually the hard-packed windblown variety that holds shape but isn't brittle. Too fresh or fluffy and the blocks crumble under their own weight. This natural material determines the dome's soundproofing qualities. Denser snow absorbs more sound, giving the igloo its signature hush. And here's a quirky tidbit: some Inuit builders reportedly hum or sing while cutting and fitting blocks. It's said that this practice helps synchronize their movements and possibly even influences the snow's settling properties. Though scholars debate how much sound affects snow structure. Maybe it's less about acoustics and more about rhythm. Either way, it adds a human warmth to this cold craft. Once completed, the dome is a testament to collective skill and quiet cooperation. The igloo doesn't shout its presence, it whispers survival. Outside, the Arctic wind screams and howls, but inside you find yourself enveloped by the gentle hush created by these expertly shaped interlocking snow blocks. You crouch low, ducking into the igloo's entrance tunnel, a narrow winding path that feels almost like a secret passage. It's more than a simple doorway, it's a clever design feat that traps cold air and blocks out the biting Arctic wind, keeping the inside cozy and, importantly, quiet. This tunnel isn't just practical, it's a barrier, a buffer zone where the outside world's howling bluster gets muffled before it can disturb your peaceful refuge. The entrance is always lower than the main chamber, often dipping below the snow surface. This might seem odd at first. Why crawl into a hole that feels almost like a trap? But the Inuit knew well that cold air is heavier and sinks, so by making the entrance a bit sunken, they ensure that cold drafts stay trapped down low away from the warm air inside. You feel the chill at your feet, but notice how the air warms quickly as you crawl deeper. The tunnel's winding shape is another genius trick. It's not a straight shot, but curves gently, forcing wind and noise to lose momentum before reaching the main living space. It's like the Arctic version of those baffles you find in fancy recording studios designed to kill echoes. Some Inuit builders even fashioned small snow walls within the tunnel to further block drafts and sounds. Historians still argue whether these features were originally intended primarily for warmth, or if the acoustic effect was equally valued. Either way, you're now in a surprisingly quiet sanctuary, thanks largely to this humble entrance. Inside this tunnel, you notice a faint crunch beneath your knees. Small blocks of packed snow layered carefully to form a stable floor. This isn't just for footing, it prevents the entrance from collapsing and muffles the sound of footsteps, keeping the space peaceful. It's a small detail, but crucial. Imagine a loud thud in a tiny enclosed space where every noise would echo. Now here's a quirky fact. Some Inuit communities decorated their tunnels with carved snow sculptures or painted soot patterns. Beyond aesthetic charm, these artistic touches also changed the texture of the walls, which some believe helped scatter sound waves, adding another layer of muffling. While this is debated among scholars, it's a delightful intersection of art and acoustic science. As you crawl through this tunnel, you can't help but feel a kind of psychological transition. The noisy, blustery world outside is reduced to a distant roar, replaced by a hush that welcomes you like a quiet friend. The design isn't just physical, it's emotional. By forcing you to lower yourself and move slowly, the entrance ritual prepares your mind for rest and calm. This careful balance between entrance size, shape, and placement exemplifies the Inuits' deep understanding of their environment. Not just how to stay warm, but how to craft silence in the midst of chaos. It's a quiet invitation to step away from the storm and into a shelter that respects both your body and your senses. You step deeper into the igloo's heart, where the interior layout reveals its secrets, not just for warmth, but for an almost reverential quietness. Unlike modern homes with hard surfaces bouncing sound around the igloo's inside, is carefully sculpted to soften noise, creating a calming stillness that feels like a gentle hug for your ears. The main chamber is surprisingly roomy, considering it's carved entirely from snow. Raised platforms usually built on one side serve as sleeping areas. These aren't just places to rest, they're elevated zones where you're lifted off the colder floor, catching the slightly warmer air that naturally rises. The snow blocks beneath these platforms absorb sound-muffling movements and whispers, so even the shuffle of a sleeping person barely stirs the quiet. The dome shape overhead also plays a critical role. Sound waves hitting the curved ceiling are gently dispersed rather than reflected sharply, avoiding harsh echoes that could jolt someone awake. The smooth interior surfaces, while cold to the touch, are subtly textured, breaking up sound vibrations. Some anthropologists note that the particular angles of walls and platforms may have been deliberately designed to optimize this acoustic effect. But historians still argue whether this was an intentional feature or a happy byproduct of the dome's geometry. You notice that the walls inside the igloo are sometimes lined with animal skins or woven mats. These coverings add warmth, but also act like natural soundproofing panels, absorbing noise from inside chatter footsteps, or even the crackle of a small oil lamp flame. These materials prevent the space from feeling too cavernous or hollow, helping to maintain that enveloping quiet. A quirky, lesser-known fact is that Inuit elders sometimes advise whispering inside the igloo, not just to keep the peace, but because the silence is so profound that even normal speech sounds intrusive. The tradition of soft voices aligns with the igloo's overall emphasis on calm and respect, turning the shelter into a sanctuary for contemplation and rest. The layout also strategically positions the fire or oil lamp away from sleeping areas, reducing sudden bursts of noise from tending the flame. This separation keeps the quiet undisturbed, allowing each family member to enjoy the hush in their own corner. In this cocoon of silence and warmth, you realize how the igloo's interior isn't just a shelter. It's an acoustic refuge shaped by centuries of experience. The Inuit have crafted a space where rest and recovery happen not just through warmth, but through a profound stillness that calms both body and mind. You reach out to touch one of the snow blocks forming the igloo's walls, marveling at how something so cold and fragile manages to turn into a fortress of soundproofing. The secret lies in snow's unique structure, a mosaic of ice crystals interspersed with countless tiny air pockets. These air pockets act like natural sound absorbers, breaking up noise waves instead of letting them bounce freely. In fact, snow's sound-deadening properties are so effective that some modern architects study it as inspiration for new insulation materials. When you think about it, snow's muffling effect isn't just about softness or thickness. It's the way sound waves slow down and lose energy as they pass through the microscopic labyrinth of air trapped inside the snow. This creates a natural filter, cutting down the sharpness of outside noises like the roar of Arctic wind or the distant bark of a sled dog team. Scientists today measure snow's acoustic qualities using specialized equipment, but the Inuit figured it out centuries ago through trial and error. Historians still debate whether the exact knowledge of snow's soundproofing was intentional or more of a happy accident alongside its thermal benefits. Either way, the result is a shelter that turns the chaotic Arctic soundscape into a gentle hush. Interestingly, not all snow is equal when it comes to soundproofing. Fresh, fluffy snow tends to trap more sound because of its light, airy texture, while denser, wind-packed snow is better at blocking cold, but transmits sound more easily. This means builders had to carefully select the right snow for their igloos, balancing warmth and quiet. This subtle choice reflects the Inuits' deep connection to their environment and keen observation skills. A quirky tidbit: some Inuit hunters noticed that snow around frozen lakes muffled sounds differently than snow on open tundra, influencing where they built their homes for optimal silence and comfort. This regional variation sparks lively debate among scholars, some suggesting that igloo designs subtly shifted based on local acoustic conditions. Inside the igloo, the snow blocks not only absorb external noise, but also soften internal sounds. The crunch of footsteps or the scrape of a tool is dampened by the porous walls, preventing echoes or sharp reverberations. This creates a cozy atmosphere where even quiet conversations feel intimate, fostering a sense of closeness and calm. So, as you lean back against the snow wall, it's clear that the igloo isn't just a shelter from the cold. It's a crafted acoustic environment designed to protect body and mind alike by enveloping you in a soft, serene silence. You settle near the tiny oil lamp flickering softly on a flat stone slab inside the igloo, its warm glow painting dancing shadows on the snowy walls. That little lamp called a kulik isn't just for light or heat, it's a marvel of balance between fire ventilation and crucially quiet. Keeping a flame burning safely in a space made entirely of snow presents a unique challenge. Too little airflow, and the flame smothers. Too much, and the cold drafts snuff it out, or create a roaring whoosh that ruins the peaceful hush. The Inuit solved this by designing cleverly placed ventilation holes and chimneys that let smoke escape without inviting icy blasts inside. The qualik itself is crafted from stone shaped like a shallow bowl, holding seal oil as fuel. It burns cleanly with minimal smoke, reducing the risk of filling the igloo with choking fumes or crackling sounds that might disturb the quiet. You can almost hear the faint, steady flicker rather than a loud blaze, a deliberate soundscape choice. This delicate ventilation system is more than just functional. It contributes directly to the igloo's acoustic calm. Air moving through small controlled openings creates a gentle whispering breeze rather than a harsh gust, maintaining the dome's signature hush. Historians still argue whether the ventilation designs prioritized air quality or acoustic effects first, but the result is a perfect harmony between fire warmth and silence. Another quirky aspect, some Inuit lamps were rumored to be arranged in specific patterns to influence airflow, and even create subtle background noises thought to comfort occupants almost like an ancient white noise machine. While this might sound speculative, it speaks to the deep understanding of environment and sensory experience embedded in igloo culture. The balance extends to fuel management. The kulik burns steadily but not too fiercely, avoiding sudden pops or crackles that could shatter the quiet. Family members learned to tend these lamps with gentle hands, mindful of the sacred silence they preserved. After all, the fire inside wasn't just a practical necessity. It was part of the igloo's quiet soul. So while it might seem strange to think about a lamp as an acoustic instrument, the kulik perfectly embodies the Inuits' mastery over their harsh world, creating warmth without noise, light without disruption, and a sanctuary where silence reigns supreme. You notice the stillness inside the igloo isn't just physical. It's woven deep into the Inuits' cultural fabric. Silence here isn't merely a side effect of the snow walls, it's a ritual, a language, a bridge between the living, the spirits, and the land. Inside this snug, hushed dome, quiet carries meaning, shaping social bonds and spiritual moments in ways that outsiders might find mysterious. Inuit oral traditions emphasize the power of silence. Storytelling sessions often begin with deliberate pauses, moments where everyone listens intently to the crackling oil lamp and the soft sounds of breath against snow. These silences aren't empty. They're filled with respect and anticipation. The igloo, as a private and silent space, becomes a sacred stage where stories connect generations, where the past whispers into the present. The community's relationship with silence also extends to practical life. Loud noises indoors were often avoided because they were thought to disturb the spirits or attract unwanted attention from animals. Instead, quiet movements, soft voices, and thoughtful gestures were valued. This behavioral pattern reinforced the igloo's quiet atmosphere, making the space a place of calm focus and mutual respect. A quirky detail in some Inuit groups, silence inside the igloo was seen as a way to conserve personal energy essential for survival in such a harsh climate. Speaking too much or too loudly was thought to waste breath and warmth, turning sound itself into a precious resource. Historians still debate how much this practical mindset influenced spiritual beliefs around silence, but the intertwining of physical and metaphysical is undeniable. In addition, the igloo's quiet interior fostered a unique kind of community bonding. Without distractions of noise or visual clutter, families experienced a heightened sense of presence. Sharing silence became as meaningful as sharing words, creating an atmosphere where emotional connections deepened and tensions eased. So, the silence inside these snow houses was never just about blocking noise. It was a living tradition, a quiet rhythm that shaped daily life and spiritual practice. The igloo wasn't just a shelter from the Arctic cold. It was a sanctuary for the soul, where silence spoke louder than words. You begin to notice subtle differences as the seasons shift. The igloo you've inhabited is not a one-size-fits-all shelter, but a structure adapted delicately to the Arctic's changing moods. During the harshest winter months, when darkness lingers almost endlessly, The igloo's design leans heavily into creating the deepest silence and warmest refuge possible. But as spring edges in bringing longer days and slightly warmer temperatures, the structure's features subtly shift to accommodate new needs, quietness included. In the dead of winter, the snow blocks tend to be thicker and denser, maximizing insulation and sound absorption. The dome is often built more compactly with lower ceilings to conserve heat and trap sound inside. You can almost feel the difference. These winter igloos are dense cocoons, where the outside world's noise is shut away like a distant memory. The long Arctic nights encourage stillness, and the igloo's design amplifies this, making silence a constant companion. Come spring and early summer, however, the igloo's design adapts. Builders might use slightly less dense snow, allowing for better ventilation to prevent overheating inside. Ceilings can be raised or slightly reshaped to let in more daylight, which paradoxically affects the acoustics. More airflow means less muffling, and the quiet inside softens but doesn't vanish. The igloo becomes a space where sounds of life like laughter or the occasional seal call from afar gently seep in. The Inuits' ability to adapt the igloo's construction to seasonal changes showcases their intimate understanding of the environment. Historians still argue how much these changes were standardized versus improvised by individual families, but the balance between warmth, light, and quiet remains central. It's a dynamic design responding fluidly to nature's rhythm. Here's a quirky detail: some Inuit communities reportedly built half igloos or used open snow shelters in spring that retained many acoustic benefits of the full dome, but allowed more sound and light to enter. These hybrid structures embrace the season's liveliness without sacrificing too much peace. So as you watch the seasons dance across the Arctic landscape, remember that the igloo is not just a static snow house. It's a living shelter that breathes and listens, adjusting its quietness like a finely tuned instrument playing the natural world's song. You watch the skilled hands of the builders as they prepare to erect the igloo, their movements practiced and efficient, almost like a carefully choreographed dance. The tools they use might seem simple: a curved ulu knife, a snow saw, sometimes wooden or bone shovels, but each has been honed to perfection for shaping and fitting snow blocks with quiet precision. Every cut and placement matters. One misstep can shatter the delicate balance of the structure, disturbing both warmth and the cherished silence inside. The ulu knife with its crescent blade is indispensable. Its curve allows the builder to slice through snow blocks, cleanly creating smooth, uniform shapes that fit snugly together. You can almost hear the faint scraping sound, barely audible, as the blade glides through packed snow. It's a sound that, within the context of construction, feels almost rhythmic, like a soft percussion accompanying the birth of the igloo. Construction is a communal event, often involving several people working in harmony. There's a quiet understanding among them, no loud commands or boisterous laughter to break the stillness of the Arctic day. Instead, subtle gestures and nods direct the flow. Historians still argue about how much of this quiet collaboration was tradition versus practical necessity, but it's clear that a calm atmosphere was vital to avoid accidents and maintain focus. Interestingly, some builders employ unique methods to test the fit of blocks, like tapping lightly with their tools to listen for hollow sounds which indicate gaps. This auditory feedback helps them adjust blocks for the tightest seal, ensuring the igloo remains quiet and draft-free. It's a practical use of sound in crafting silence, a paradox that showcases the Inuits' nuanced relationship with noise. Another quirky detail: in some regions, young apprentices learn the craft through quiet observation, before ever touching tools, absorbing the silent language of construction before participating. This respect for quiet learning underlines the cultural weight of the igloo building tradition. As the dome rises block by block, the process itself fosters a shared sense of purpose and calm. The builder's quiet cooperation mirrors the igloo's final effect, an intimate, tranquil space born from deliberate, hushed effort. You find yourself in a modern lab where researchers have brought together pieces of traditional igloo snow to test its acoustic mysteries with high-tech gear. Using sound meters, lasers, and even 3D simulations, scientists are peeling back layers of the igloo's silent magic. What they discover is a fascinating blend of physics and cultural wisdom. Snow's porous structure diffuses sound waves in ways that create an almost natural sound chamber, muffling the bluster outside and softening voices inside. One key finding is how the igloo's curved shape scatters sound evenly, preventing echoes that might otherwise create a noisy, cavernous feel. The snow walls act like natural acoustic panels, absorbing mid and high-frequency sounds, which contributes to the peaceful hush that occupants experience. This quiet is not just an absence of noise. It's an active acoustic environment crafted by nature and human skill. Yet mysteries remain. Scientists debate how much of this effect comes from the snow itself versus the igloo's shape and interior materials, like animal skins. Some argue that the igloo's design is an early example of architectural acoustics, intentional or not. Others think much of the quietness may be a fortunate side effect of the construction materials and techniques. A quirky insight from these studies: sound behaves differently inside igloos depending on the outside temperature and snow conditions. On particularly cold days, the air inside becomes denser, changing how sound travels. This means the igloo's quiet isn't static. It fluctuates with nature's whims, adding a dynamic quality to its silence. Contemporary architects are even looking to igloos for inspiration, hoping to mimic their natural soundproofing for urban buildings. The idea that a centuries-old snow house could influence future architecture shows how deep the Inuits' understanding of sound and shelter really is. So even with all our modern tech, the igloo keeps some of its secrets. Its silence isn't just a frozen stillness. It's a living acoustic phenomenon shaped by snow shape and tradition. You start to compare the igloo's quiet sanctuary with other traditional homes built from earthwood or animal skins. The yurts of Central Asia, the teepees of the plains, the mud huts scattered across Africa. Each shelter tells a story about how humans adapted to their environments, balancing warmth, protection, and importantly, sound. Unlike the igloo's dense snow walls that absorb sound, yurts rely on felt layers stretched over a wooden frame, creating a space that's warm, but often echoes with the sounds of wind and movement. Teepees, with their conical shapes and canvas walls, allow more outside noise in, but their structure encourages a lively internal soundscape, ideal for community gatherings and storytelling. Mud huts offer thick walls that block sound well, but don't create the same kind of cocooning silence as snow. The igloo's absolute quietness sets it apart. Its soundproofing is so effective that compared to other traditional homes, it offers a level of acoustic privacy and calm that's nearly unmatched. Historians still debate whether this was a primary design goal or an advantageous byproduct of choosing snow and dome shapes for insulation and wind resistance. A quirky comparison: in some Mongolian yurts, residents use drumming or music to energize their space, embracing noise as part of life, whereas the igloo encourages whispering and silence, reflecting contrasting cultural values about sound and social interaction. This acoustic contrast highlights how shelter design is not just about weather, but about the social and sensory experiences a culture values. The igloo's hush creates a refuge for introspection and quiet community, a stark but beautiful difference from the lively buzz inside a teepee or yurt. So when you think about human homes around the world, remember the igloo stands out as a masterclass in quietude, a snowy bubble of silence that teaches us how shelter can be as much about sound as it is about space. You pause to reflect on what this ancient snow house has taught us, not just about shelter, but about silence and harmony with nature. The igloo's design is a legacy of deep observation, patience, and respect, showing how human ingenuity can transform the harshest environments into peaceful havens. It's a quiet testament to survival, but also to the value of stillness in a noisy world. Modern architects and designers are increasingly drawn to the igloo's lessons. They study how its natural materials and curved shapes create calm spaces, inspiring innovations in soundproofing and sustainable building. The igloo reminds us that silence isn't just the absence of noise, but an active presence, crafted, nurtured, and vital for well-being. The Inuit snow house challenges us to reconsider how we approach our environments and homes. In a world filled with constant chatter and digital noise, the igloo's legacy invites us to slow down, listen, and create spaces where quietness can thrive. Historians still debate how much the igloo's acoustic design was intentional versus serendipitous, but its impact is undeniable. Here's a quirky thought to leave you with. If you ever find yourself frustrated by noisy neighbors or city sounds, imagine swapping your apartment for an igloo, where the walls themselves hush the world into a soothing silence. It might be a bit chilly, but the peace priceless. So as you settle into your own space tonight, think of the igloo not just as a cold dome of snow, but as a warm, silent sanctuary, a whisper from the past, reminding us all of the quiet power of thoughtful design. Now, as you begin to drift towards sleep, imagine the igloo's silence wrapping around you like a soft, snowy blanket. The hush you felt inside that dome isn't harsh or empty. It's gentle and deep, like the pause between breaths or the quiet that settles just before dawn. The snow walls hold no harsh echoes, only a calm that seeps slowly into your bones, soothing your mind and softening the day's noise into a distant memory. In this peaceful space, your thoughts slow, becoming lighter and more tender. The crackle of the oil lamp's flame fades into a comforting murmur like a lullaby whispered by the Arctic wind itself. You're held in a moment where silence isn't loneliness, but a companion, a balm for the senses, and a sanctuary for the soul. The igloo teaches us that quietness is crafted a delicate balance of shape, material, and intention. It's not merely the absence of sound, but a presence that nurtures rest, connection, and reflection. As you sink deeper into your own space tonight, carry that lesson with you. Let the silence envelop you, calm your thoughts, and ease your breathing. Remember, in a world that often feels too loud, the quiet of the igloo is a gift, a reminder that peace is possible, and sometimes it's made of nothing more than snow. Good night and sweet dreams.